I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media, coming at you with another episode of Pat's Daily, brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks and GameTime. Today, we got a mailbag episode for you, and I am joined by my buddy Dakota Randall of Pro Football Network to answer your mailbag questions following the Patriots' win over the Bengals, where they stunned the world. According to all the prognosticators, they didn't have a chance in this one. Very much a different outlook this week ahead of the Seattle Seahawks game. Matchup of the two youngest head coaches in the NFL. Jerod Mayo held the title for like a day or two, and then Mike Macdonald quickly swooped that out from under him. Both of these defenses absolutely balled out last week. And their offenses, the run games were very strong, but there wasn't a whole lot out of these pass games. Honestly, a lot of parallels between these two teams. But before we get into these mailbag questions, first, Dak, how you doing? And we heard from Jerod Mayo. We heard from Jacoby Brissett, David Andrews. A big theme, I feel like, was the hill, running the hill, and, that whole thing of the Bengals not being in shape. Was there anything from today's pressers that stood out to you?
First of all, I'm a little distracted staring at all the Fungo Pops and the posters behind you.
Sorry, it's all the color.
I see the Mr. Sinister, I think, back there somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I made sure that he was. Where is he? I made sure that he was sticking out.
Yeah, the X-Men '97 poster. So, I mean, honestly, the presses are what they are. There was some good stuff in there, but I think my biggest takeaway was just sort of the continued trend of how different these Jerod Mayo pressers are. From what we saw under Belichick. I mean, we really saw that on Monday with the day after presser where Mayo was in a wildly giddy mood, at least compared to Belichick. And then today, he started off by naming the practice players of the week, which is something we always had to figure out on our own when Belichick was the head coach. And then obviously we had the moment where he brought out the Tennessee hoodie for Jacoby Brissett after Tennessee had a 51-10 win over NC State. So just the continuing of the, for better or worse, the far lighter mood and the vibes and everything. The contrast between, this and what we saw under Belichick continues to be very stark. And I'm just very curious to see how, if at all, it changes when the Patriots start to lose games.
I totally agree. One thing I will say is the energy is so much different. It's palpable. Now, obviously, like a new season, you're coming off a win. Like you said, things are going to be pretty good, and you're going to have to see what happens once they actually stumble. But you do get the sense that these guys are able to breathe a little bit. And even if they do stumble, even if they do lose, you kind of hope that with this new regime, they'll understand that there's going to be growing pains, but at least they have a win under their belt, so they have the confidence going forward where, maybe you take an L against a couple good teams, but that you're not bad. You just need to get better. This team has talked about improving every week, so we'll see if they can actually back that up. But without further ado, buddy, let's get into this mailbag. In your estimation, can the Patriots maintain their momentum and beat the Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I do think that this will be a tough game for them solely because, I think I don't have the stats up right in front of me right now, but I think Jacoby Brissett was pressured the second most among all quarterbacks last week. I think the Seattle Seahawks had the number one pressure rate, if I have that right.
Sounds about right. At least from the tape, it sure looked that way.
Yeah, I think Seattle had the top pressure rate in week one. And so, I mean, listen, it was one of those things where we came out of the game, we thought, wow, the offensive line had issues, but, it was encouraging and seemed to exceed expectations. Then you go back at it and then you watch a little bit more and you look at the stats. And I mean, the pressure rate was up around 47, I think, percent. The run blocking, it was solid, but there certainly were some issues there. And so, the Patriots won in spite of it. And I think that was just because of a really an excellent performance from Jacoby Brissett. I mean, not a lot of high level plays, not a lot of, downfield throws or anything, but in terms of managing the game, managing pressure, I thought he was amazing. He was unflappable. The question is, is that repeatable? What's going to happen if that happens again? Because we all know what the impact of accumulated pressure. You just look at Mac Jones, and so you wonder. It's week one, right? That stuff hasn't started to pile up. Brissett and Alex Van Pelt also are comfortable with the Bengals. Like they know what to do against those guys. But if it happens a second week in a row and the pressure's the same on Jacoby, what does that start to look like? And so I do think this is going to be oddly enough, a tougher game than the Bengals game. But I certainly think the Patriots have enough to win this game because I don't think the Seahawks are any great shakes or anything.
100%. And listening to David Andrews made me feel a little better because I asked him today about some of the issues they had. He mentioned that in the third quarter, the Bengals really started to throw a lot of run blitzes at them because it became very clear that Ramondre Stevenson was the biggest threat on the field, and they started selling out to stop him. But you also did see that by the fourth quarter, they figured a lot of that out, and then they got back on track and started running the ball. This is a very similar Seattle defense, an attacking front where if they can't stop the run by just, some of their standard stuff, you're going to start seeing them try to cave in all those gaps, funnel everything inside and really just build a wall. Now, that's easier said than done, but this is a veteran group on the defensive line, so it's not going to be easy, but a lot of that's going to fall on the passing attack. I don't think they necessarily need to pass more, the Patriots, but I do think they need to pass efficiently because Gerard Mayo said if they stop the run and they load the box up, then we got to pass. But last week, there were guys open. Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas. If you look at the tape, they were creating separation. They just weren't always some of the first reads in the progression. And it felt like the kind of game plan where Jacoby was trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly and not hold on to it. And when Trey Hendrickson's ripping off the left side, it's pretty clear, why that's going on. So I agree. I think they could absolutely beat the Seattle team, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it with the same game plan of just attacking the run defense of the Seahawks because they're not as bad as the Bengals, where a glaring issue for that Bengals front was their run defense. So hopefully they can be a little bit more complimentary, get some help from their special teams unit. Sorry,
I don't know what happened. Just all of a sudden my tab closed and I was gone, but I'm back. We're good.
The beauty of a live broadcast. It's good. We've dealt with way crazier. But yeah, basically a complimentary effort. I don't think they're going to be able to lean on the run game fully, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully Jalen Polk, Demario Douglas are primary reads in the progression as opposed to KJ Osborne, who felt like he was the first look like 5 times.
Yeah, I just think, my thing is, then now what the Patriots are doing is on film. And so, I just wonder, the Seahawks come into this game and they're like, okay, we're going to load up to stop the run. And then we're going to dare the Patriots receivers to get open against Witherspoon and Reek Woolen. And it's just, are the Patriots going to be able to do that? I mean, I have significant doubts about that. This could be a big Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper game. But I also, I think a lot of this comes down to the left side of the offensive line, right? I mean, I think we all feel pretty good about the right side. But, the left tackle, we'll see, right? I think it's probably going to be Vidarian Lowe in this game. That seems to be the obvious choice. I think, interestingly, Michael Jordan at left guard, I'm not saying City So is about to be Wally Pipped or anything, but I think Michael Jordan maybe fits what they want to do as far as the outside zone stuff better than City So and maybe some of the other guys. I just think if that's what that they want to do, he's kind of, maybe their best option there. So I just wonder, what he looks like in this game and whether they start to get to more of that outside zone running. But again, I just think a lot of it comes down to the left side of the offensive line, because if you look at it, a lot of Ramondre Stevenson's runs, and I think like 80 of the yards that he gained in that game, 80 of those yards were to the right side of the line. And so, are the Seahawks going to load up and say, go to the left side? Are the Patriots able to counter with that? I think those will be some interesting things to watch in that game.
100%. I do think that City So is still a good fit, but honestly, after you schooled me on with your Vidarian Lowe take, I'm not pushing back against you, man. I am trusting your eye with that one. And Michael Jordan really does deserve credit. He was, for a backup guy, especially one who's on the practice squad right now, he was absolutely solid. And David Andrews mentioned that he really bought in when he signed with the team and has been really good for them going all the way back to the spring. All right, we kind of touched on the receivers. Do you think Pop Douglas and Jalen Polk are going to be more involved this week against the Seahawks?
I think they're going to have to be. I just think I'd be surprised if the Patriots have that much success running the ball again now that it's on film, right? I'd also look for a lot more action from Antonio Gibson in the passing game. I think that could be something because I think that's going to be a huge part of their offense this year. But as far as Polk and Demario Douglas, Douglas had 3 targets. And so, I wonder how much of that it did seem maybe that they were trying to keep him out of harm's way, just given, obviously given the injury risk with him, like it seemed like they were maybe managing the situation a little bit. Maybe they were, they didn't want to play all their cards in week 1 because they didn't think they had to with the way the game was going. Because obviously, I think we all expect Mario Douglas to be a target hog for this team. So 3 targets just is not how it's going to go. But as far as Jalen Polk goes, I expect when the Patriots coaches go back and look at the film from this game, they'll see that he was open quite a lot. And, I think I'd expect them to try and, take advantage of that in this game if he can replicate it. I think he looked really good in this game in his opportunities. He got open a lot more than his stats would indicate. And so, I expect him to be heavily involved. Will he be able to gain separation and make catches against that Seahawks secondary? That's a different question. But I certainly expect him to get more targets than he did in the first game.
Yeah, and Rod Mayo said that when he looked at the tape, the guys were doing the dirty work, but also there were open receivers. And then I think there was an advanced metric that showed that I think Pop and Poke were two of the most open receivers that created some of the most separation in the time they were on the field. And then we even saw Jalen Polk on the last pass of the game was actually an X over Tyquan Thornton with Pop Douglas and KJ Osborne on the field. Tyquan Thornton had a good summer. Not a great summer, but I thought he had a good summer. He was available. He made most of the plays that went his way. But looking at the tape, he wasn't getting open very often. When he did, I think his guy slipped. And then there was another one in the red zone, but he was bracketed originally, so Jacoby didn't even look his way. I like Polk a lot more in those one-on-one situations. I know Tyquan Thornton brings great verticality, but I really think this is an offense that should run through Polk and Pop with KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton really being more complementary pieces. I mean, not like Tyquan was a featured player or anything like that. I think he got a go ball, and then there was a play action pass where he was wide open on like one of those corner stops. But yeah, those young guys, they're the future of your offense. One reason that you'd like to get them involved, but also clearly they're two of the most dynamic guys that you've got in the passing game.
Yeah, and I think Tyquan Thornton, the thing is he really struggles against press, right? I think that's his biggest issue. And so I just, I wonder, right now, he has the speed, and it's something they don't have a lot of. So I think he has to be on the field because it does show up when you watch the games, and it does make a difference. And it's too bad that Javon Baker is not really ready to go for multiple reasons. Because he's not as fast as Tyquan Thornton, but I think he certainly has the skills to sort of fill that role. He's obviously got to figure some things out off the field, and he's got to learn the offense a bit better, figure out the drops, all that kind of stuff. But I think he offers more upside. It's just he's not playable right now over Tyquan Thornton, which is disappointing. But I just wonder, when we reach that point in the season, unless Tyquan Thornton does, start to produce a lot more. Again, I think he had the biggest play, or his 17-yarder was the longest play or something like that.
So, yeah.
2 for 27. So, again, I don't expect big things from him, but it was week 1 for everybody, right? So let's see what it looks like this week.
100%. And then Gerard Mayo was asked about Javon Baker and why he was inactive. Last week, he told us that the Instagram live video had nothing to do with it and wasn't going to be a reason that he missed the game. Today, he said he wouldn't comment on whether that was a reason. It was disciplinary, but also did acknowledge that Javon Baker needs to be better both on and off the field, which I think is what we all expected because we haven't really seen him produce consistently since the very beginning of the summer. Really, it's just been disappointing on the field, and then obviously all the things off the field as well. All right, we got many more mailbag questions to hit you with, but first, a quick word from our friends at PrizePicks. Be right back.
PrizePicks this time, and they are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. With over 5 million active members, it's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action this football season. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. PrizePicks is actually running a promo for the month of September where one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks. It's the entire week of September, so you can use that one passing yard as one of your blocks and watch the winnings roll in. You can see it on the screen in front of me. Caleb Williams right now. The over-under is 255.5, or the more or less, rather. But it is 1 yard for Caleb Williams. So make sure to use that and put your prize picks together on the app. Download it today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get those $50. It's guaranteed. That's PrizePicks. Run your game.
All right, so this one is from my boss, John Zannis. And because it's my boss, I'll be nice and I'll take this one first. So did Jacoby not try and push the ball downfield because he was told not to, he didn't see the opportunities, or he saw them but didn't trust his ability to make the throws? I think, if anything, Jacoby may have trusted his ability to make throws too much. And we saw that on the turnover-worthy play to Hunter Henry, where I didn't mind the decision at all because the two of the receivers had coverage sucked up. It was Hunter Henry one-on-one on a corner route. 50-50 ball to his tight ends. We know Jacoby loves his big guys. That was fine. It was throwing off his back foot that really is the reason that almost turned into a catastrophic play and a turnover in the red zone, which they were bad enough in the red zone, 1 for 4. When you had an opportunity to get 28 points, you only walk away with 7 when you're in there in terms of, punching it in the end zone. So I don't think that's the issue. Now, he was told not to. I do think that to a degree, part of the game plan was we cannot hold on to the football, because as we saw, there were times where Jacoby would get to the top of his drop, and then as he stepped up, Trey Hendrickson would be ripping off that edge. So I think there were times where, like the Ramondre Stevenson check down in the red zone, where he's got three potential options. He's got Jalen Polk to the right, and then he's got crossing routes with KJ Osborne and I think it was Hunter Henry. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Austin Hooper. Three options open. Instead, he's got protection and goes short to Ramondre for a stop. That's one where I think maybe you're just going a little too fast. Did Jacoby not push it downfield because he was told not to? Yeah, I think it's more about trying to be smart with the ball. And then in terms of the opportunities, he went deep to Tyquan on that one play, but Tyquan was smothered. Wasn't catchable, but honestly, that's one of those where if you don't really like the look, either overthrow it so that no one can get it, or, maybe your guy can run under it. So when it comes to not pushing the ball downfield, I think they did want to play a ball control style, especially in, later in the second half when it was like, we got to run the football. We're doing that well. Let's just lean on that. We don't need to necessarily go downfield, because they also wanted to kill the clock, which they did a fantastic job of. So I don't really think it was so much that, Jacoby doesn't think he can make these throws. And there were opportunities there. I think one, now that he knows where those open guys were, maybe he'll see it better next week. Like, this offense is still growing. But at the same time, he needs to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think, there certainly were some plays that Jacoby left in the field. I forget which play it was. It might have been the third down to Douglas when he was.
Yeah, where he kind of double clutched and then threw it high.
Was that the one? There was one where, like, if he waited a beat longer, Jalen Polk was about to come open as a far better option. I'm just trying to remember which one it was.
There was one of those on, like, I think it was one to Tyquan. It was the go route on the left side.
I think so, yeah. And and that's kind of the book on him, right? Just processing, and I think I guess throughout his career, one of the knocks on him is he's just kind of a beat off, right? And that's why he's a backup quarterback, right? He's not a starter. I think, and that was a situation where he just needed to be a little bit more patient, and Jalen Polk, I think, would have been open for a big play. So there were plays like that out there, but at the end of the day, I think really what this was, what is Belichick's phrase? The game declared itself. And early on, despite the Bengals' pedigree and the quarterback, this kind of felt like recent games between the Patriots and the Jets, where it became, I think, apparent pretty early on the Bengals weren't going to be able to move the ball against the Patriots. Like, yeah, they'd probably break through at some point, but they weren't going to go out there and score 30 points. And the Patriots got an early lead, so I think they got in the mode of run the ball and don't risk it. If we don't turn the ball over, we're going to win this game one way or another. And that's right out of the Belichick playbook, right? And so I think at the end of the day, Jacoby wasn't told not to throw the ball down the field. I think it was just mutually understood. Like, let's be careful. Don't make any mistakes and any backbreaking turnovers, because if we just protect the ball and play responsibly, we're going to win this game. So I think it was a little bit of both.
100%. And it's also not like we saw him airing it out with any one player with any consistency this summer. Right. Tyquan's got the speed and Polk's got vertical ability. Even KJ Osborne showed up at times, but it's not like, all right, why is Jacoby throwing? He's such a deep ball merchant. Like, that really wasn't what we saw much this summer, although he did try to be aggressive at times, especially I feel like late in the summer, the effectiveness of that kind of wore off.
Yeah.
Okay. They're still building chemistry. Hopefully they can figure it out, especially this week. Although, as we said, that is going to be a very tall task. All right. Layden Robinson had a much better game when using the eye test rather than the advanced metric test, looking at his pressures and QB hits. Will this eventually even out with experience?
Yeah, I think of course so, right? I mean, it's one of those things. Week one, and
he's never going to learn a thing.
Yeah, if he had the best game I'd ever seen, I'd be like, wow, that was really impressive. But like, let's wait. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't put. I think he had a really good game, and I think the coaches clearly are very high on him. Played really well during the summer, and he looked really good in this game. I mean, yeah, there were some plays that weren't great, but I mean, he just makes some really plus blocks that I think are really impressive. I have a Layden Robinson adjacent take or thought, if you want it.
Bring it.
It's not on him specifically, but I was thinking in my head, I'm like, because you and I always talk about the offensive line stuff, or and I was just trying to think of something to write today or this week, and I was like, I think Layden Robinson could be directly connected to the Patriots search for a number one receiver. And hear me out.
Okay.
I think so. I'll frame it this way. I'll ask you a question. Here's my mailbag question for you. If the Patriots could draw it up, what would their ideal offensive line be by the end of the season? Like a 5-man group that's playing well that they can believe in. By the end of the year, what would that lineup be?
I think left tackle, Caden Wallace, left guard, City So, David Andrews, right guard, Layden Robinson, right tackle, Mike Nwenu. I hesitate a little bit because I don't think that Nwenu wants to be at tackle, and I think they also understand that he's better at guard, but they have a surplus of guards, and they don't have a lot of starting caliber tackles, and obviously Caden Wallace, at some point, they'd like him to be a starter. They invested a third-round pick in him, so that is what I think it'll be, but I'm still so kind of murky on it because if City comes in and doesn't play well and it's kind of like a Cole Strange situation, I could also see it being, all right, Layden at maybe left guard, then Mike Nwenu back at right guard, and then you stick with Vidarian Lowe at left, and then Caden Wallace at right.
Right, and certainly that absolutely is a scenario that could happen. Like it's week 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Cole Strange is going to start being developed as like the potential center of the future. Like that's maybe going to be what they try with him. Which I think makes a lot of sense. But I just think, and right, we'll see with City So, right? And maybe Cole Strange comes back in and factors there. But I just feel like Layden Robinson looking like a legitimate long-term option at guard. I know it's early, but him looking like that, that kind of solidifies the interior to the point where I think for now, at least you can remove Mike Nwenu from it. And he's not part of that picture right now. He is at right tackle. And so to your point, they have to find a spot for Caden Wallace. He has to play. So does this speed up them saying like, let's put him at left tackle and let's see how it goes. And so I say all that to say that, if they can somehow remove left tackle as the top need entering the draft, all of a sudden you're in play for hunting for the best receiver. And I think that's what they would like to happen because we know how badly they want a number 1 receiver. They went after Calvin Ridley. They went after Brandon Ayuk. And I think the Brandon Ayuk thing is telling on multiple levels because I think it would have been too early for them. The whole argument that they're not quite ready for someone like that. But I think what that really was is there's not a lot of great receivers set to free agency next year.
Yep.
A lot of these guys are older with question marks. It's really T. Higgins. And I don't know if I want to pay him that kind of money given the injury history. And I don't know if he's a true number 1. And you just never know when these guys pop up in trades. Like it's not going to happen often. Teams aren't going to make these guys available. I know A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill, but you just can't bank on that. So the Patriots' best path to a number 1 receiver, and I think the one they prefer the most just from a dollars standpoint, is getting someone at the top of round 1. But they can't do that if they still need a franchise left tackle. So I just think Layden Robinson kind of filling right guard, and now it's like on City So. If City So comes back and he's like, no, that is your left guard, you're not messing with it, then it's Mike Nwenu at right tackle. We're set on the other 4 spots, and then let's see what Caden Wallace is. And if he proves starting caliber at the very least, then I think it's all in on number 1 receiver in the draft.
I agree, and I think that makes a ton of sense. Like DK Metcalf might hit free agency, but we see every year we get right around free agency, and then the guys who don't have some kind of red flag like age, maybe there's something going on with the team or whatever it is, those guys end up either getting franchise tagged and then signed, or they just sign an extension before free agency even hits. Like you said, you cannot rely on those veteran guys hitting the market the smartest way, both in the sense of dollars and just in the way that you actually acquire that talent is absolutely through the draft. So fingers crossed, man. I do like what I've seen from Caden Wallace. It is odd to me that he's even the backup right tackle. Like we saw the lines, we saw all the different rotations. He wasn't even on the left side. That was still Chukso Okorafor.
I know. That today was kind of, and I saw that. I'm like, man, why aren't they just doing it at left tackle? Like just put him there. Like why? I like give up on the Chukes experiment. Like I don't know why. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think he wants to be over there. I don't think he's playing well over there. It seems like an analytics play, where it's like this guy graded out better than Jonah Williams and we can get him for a fraction of the price. And I'm like, it's not working, like put Caden Wallace over there and go forward with that. So you can see what you have unless they've seen enough. Right. But I thought he looked good during the glimpses that we got during the summer, but what do I know?
And I mean, I understood the Chukes experiment at the time. I was very much like, wait and see. But you know what? He's been a starter in the NFL for years. And there's not a whole lot of good tackles on the market, period. Like Jonah Williams is the only other guy where I think you could make an argument. I don't know if they tried to go after him, but that they should have. He's on injured reserve right now. No way to predict that. Obviously, I'm not saying like that would have happened, of course. But I got at the time, Chooks is still 26 years old. He has no major injury history. He started 7 years in the NFL. Like, that's the kind of profile where you're not expecting to be bad, but they're putting him in a tough spot where in the preseason, his pressure rate allowed was over twice as high on the left as it was on the right, which is like what we talked about with Darian Lowe during the summer, where his pressure rate when he was on the right was like twice as high. It was egregious. On the left, it wasn't great, but it was significantly better than the other way around. And some guys don't mind flipping around. I feel like Caden is probably going to be that guy because he is athletic enough. He's got length and he's really patient with his hands. But some guys are like, no, I don't like it. It's like wiping with the wrong hand. I don't want to do this. So hopefully they figure out whatever is going to happen with Chooks, because I think that whole thing is very odd.
Yeah, and I just think it's, again, to go back to Layden Robinson, I just think it's huge that he's sort of emerged here, because if he wasn't, if he looked like a disaster or bust or just wasn't ready, all of a sudden in City So being hurt, all of a sudden Mike Nwenu is at one of the guard spots. Who knows what's going on at the other one. And then, we're having Chooks at right tackle, Darian Lowe at left tackle, but he was hurt. So, who knows who the starter would have been in week one, like all these kind of permutations. So I think, Layden Robinson just kind of solidifies part of that and makes it a lot easier for them to sort of identify their 5-man lineup right now. So we'll see, but again, 1 week, let's see how it goes.
I know you and me could do O-line talk for this entire episode, and we gave you guys a lot, so I'll give you a quick breather with a word from our friends at GameTime. Be right back.
The Patriots are playing the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. You can get in over at Paycor Stadium for the lowest price guaranteed with GameTime. They have a new feature. It's called GameTime Picks, and it makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. We're going to do a live read right now, Taylor, with the B-roll, and I'm going to go on the GameTime app on my cell phone and check out just how much time or how much money you can get into Paycor Stadium for. Right now, it's looking like Patriots at Bengals. You can get in for as low as $136. That's down like $25 from the last time I did this read. Not that bad. They have super deals, amazing deals, great deals, all on the site, and they make it super simple to check out, pay, and get to the game. So we're going to do a lot more of these with the Seattle Seahawks coming up because that's going to be a home game. But if you're going out to Cincinnati, make sure you check out GameTime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, we're going to take a couple more questions from the bag. If anybody's got questions that they want to throw at us in the comments, make sure to do that, because as always, we're going to have our quick hitters at the end if you all have something you want to ask us. All right. Is the red zone a concern, and is there a red zone package for Drake May in the future? I woke up feeling like stirring the pot. I gotta respect it.
No, I don't think that's how they're gonna bring Drake May into this thing. Yeah. That's fun to think about, but I mean, I'm worried about the red zone from the sense that, like, I do think the Patriots are going to be a very conservative team this year. Even when Drake May gets in there, like, I think they're going to be worried about rookie turnovers, right? I think when they get down into the red zone, yeah, they want touchdowns, of course, and Rob Mayo's from preaching that. But I think a lot of these games, they'll be happy to take the 3 if the defense is playing well and keeping them in it. I think they're just going to be scared to death of turnovers there. So, I think Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, I think, are obvious targets there. We'll see if some other guys get involved, if they kind of get the running backs involved and Antonio Gibson. But, I do think it could be a long season of they get down there around the 12 or so. They do like, a fade to, Hunter Henry or something, see if they can hit him on that. And then they just sort of try and run the ball. And if they don't get it, they kick it, because I think they're going to be afraid of turnovers. But, we'll see. Maybe there's some sort of Drake May package. I'd rather a Marcus Jones package. I'd like to see Marcus Jones on offense. I still think that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think he's really important to what they want to do on defense, and you don't want to risk injury. So
I do think there's going to be a level of wanting to protect the ball, obviously, especially like what we saw last weekend, where you already have the game in hand. There's really no need for you to try to go downfield and make these, lower percentage throws. At the same time, I also think that Alex Van Pelt and Jacoby Brissett are pretty aggressive by nature. Like, Van Pelt's going to want to get more involved downfield, but again, they were in a position where they didn't really have to do that. And then Jacoby Brissett, he doesn't want to dink and dunk. Like, he wants to throw a few fades a game to try to stretch the defense because he understands that if they don't respect you downfield, everything's going to shrink, and no quarterback wants to live in that world and feel like they're scared to make any downfield throws. And again, there were opportunities they just didn't take advantage of. Now, with the red zone, I would say it's a concern based on week 1 because of how inopportunistic they were and the fact that there were chances that they couldn't capitalize on. I need to see them actually be able to finish those before I can make any kind of assumptions. But that said, like Jalen Polk and Hunter Henry, even Demario Douglas, if you get them the right matchups, I think those are guys who can execute in the red zone, and it's not so much of a high risk probability kind of situation. But at the same time, this is a Seahawks defense that is very fast and very physical. Those windows are going to be tighter than usual in an already tight area. So this week, I am absolutely worried, and I really, really hope that they prove me wrong. All right. This is more of a kind of scheme question. I could definitely take this one off the top. The Patriots were lighter on cover 3 and heavier on cover 2 in week 1. Do you think that's a matchup thing or a shift in philosophy? I honestly think it's too early to tell because the cover 2 was big when they played Joe Burrow back in 2022. And a lot of that is because they were planning to face T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So you're not really going to throw out the game plan just because one of those players is gone, especially considering a lot of it was just, hey, force Burrow to throw underneath when we're showing pressure and then go up and tackle, which they did a great job at. The cover 3 stuff, I think if they like their matchups better, like with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, I think the matchups are very good. Where you got Christian Gonzalez and DK. DK is a much more physical player than Gonzalez has faced since he went up against A.J. Brown, who did have success against him, but Gonzo didn't let anything behind him, which really, when you face elite receivers, that's the biggest thing. They're going to make their plays. Don't let them get behind you. And then John Jones and Tyler Lockett is like a match made in heaven in terms of matchups. Two undersized but underrated guys with underrated physicality who are great at the catch point and very savvy veterans. I think that's the kind of matchup where you can be a little bit more comfortable playing those single high structures and trusting your guys on islands to make their plays and not let anything get behind them or go downfield. But still, the Patriots are going to be a cover 2 defense. They love their cover 1, but also they like to show cover 1 and then flip to some other kind of version of cover 2 to give quarterbacks different looks. And with a guy like Geno Smith, I think that's going to be a priority to kind of get in his head and confuse him. But one thing, Dak, I thought it was interesting that when Mayo was asked about the Seahawks offense, he didn't even mention Geno Smith by name. He said, oh, yeah, they have a veteran quarterback, but then went right to Kenneth Walker. I came so close to calling him Kenneth Murray. That's happened so many times. And I'm positive during one of these shows I'm going to do it by accident, so I'm warning y'all now. But, yeah, he's kind of glossed over Geno Smith, went to Kenneth Murray, then DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So it kind of tells me that they're not that scared of Geno Smith as a passer, although obviously super talented guy, but he's not Joe Burrow. Really, I think it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, playing good defense, because the 2 touchdowns the Seahawks had last week, one was, I think it was Zach Charbonnet on a busted coverage where the outside corner kind of ran inside to get Tyler Lockett, and there was no one there to cover the back. And then there was that crazy run by Geno Smith where he goes right up the gut and runs like 30-something yards for a touchdown. Kind of plays you don't really see from the Patriots because they're so well coached and disciplined. So, yeah, long story short, I wouldn't go and say that they're going to go more cover 2, especially because DeMarcus Covington wants to be more aggressive. But I do think when you see, 2 dynamic players on the outside where, maybe a fine matchup for Gonzo, but not so much for guys like John Jones and Marco Wilson and guys like that, then maybe you'll see a little bit more of that too high stuff.
Yeah, and I think to go back to the Seahawks matchups part of it, at the end of the day, I think, well, in terms of the passing game, an underrated part of this is Farrell Brown and Noah Fant. It seems like neither. Well, yeah, the Farrell Brown revenge game. What was it? King Rama touchdown. King Tutty.
Oh my God, that's actually really good. I was going to give you a little skip, but that was good.
But I think I don't think McDonald ruled out either guy this week, but I think there's a chance neither play, and that obviously helps the Patriots. Like those are 2, especially Noah Fant, right, are capable pass catching tight ends, and if you can remove those chess pieces, I think it certainly frees up the Patriots for some of the things they want to do. But I think this game is going to really be about the run defense. I do think there was some issues in run defense against the Bengals. I think the Pats ranked I think it was 25th or so in week 1. In run defense, I thought the Bengals, especially in the second half, they had a lot of success when they committed to it, and I just think
I can explain that actually.
Yeah, go ahead, because I worry about Kenneth Walker doing the same thing. Christian Barmore, obviously, we all talk about the pass rush loss that they have there. But he rounded into a really good all-around defensive tackle last year. And I just don't know. I think Jeremiah Farm struggles to hold up against double teams. I don't know if I love Daniel Okwale against the run. And I think the more all that stuff gets on films, teams are going to attack it. And so I worry about Kenneth Walker in this game. I worry about the run defense. And then that obviously setting up other things the Seahawks want to do.
I actually thought Daniel Okwale was pretty good. The one gripe I have with Okwale, and it's not really even a gripe because it's not his fault, he's got shorter arms, so it's harder for him. Like, he can, stack and shed pretty well, but sometimes it's harder for him to both get off and make the tackle, just because you don't have quite as much range. But technically, I think he's one of their most sound defensive linemen just because he's been in the league for so long. Like, he had a whole career when he was with the Jaguars as well. And in the last, 2-3 years, everyone knows him as a pass rush specialist, but I really do think he's improved as a run defender. Just obviously not the most physically gifted guy, but he works with what he's got. Now, Jeremiah Farm specifically, the reason that 2 of those big runs happened, and I saw it on the tape, and I was like, why the hell is he all the way over there? His alignment was off. Where, remember that big run they had against the Chiefs had against them? It was like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They weren't giving up anything, and then there was one play where he busted up the gut, and it was because I think it was Godshaw or Barmore weren't in the right gap. So there was just this massive hole, and really all the Clyde Edwards-Helaire had to do was exploit it. And that happened twice with the Bengals on the same drive, specifically with Farms, where he just seemed like he was shaded too far outside, and it created a massive hole on the interior. And there wasn't really a whole lot that the linebackers could do. And there was one more where there was a double on Godshaw and Tristan Hill. Tristan Hill, not a guy you really expect to hold up on those double teams. And then Tavai and Bentley tried to close in on the back, but at that point he had a head of steam and kind of slipped through for a little extra yardage. But those were the only – I think they had 4 successful runs in the entire game, and they were all on that drive. Now, again,
and I also think there was an element of the Patriots were more than fine to allow the Bengals to get some of those runs.
Oh, yeah.
Shorten the game, right? So maybe it was part of what they what they wanted to happen. But the good news for the Patriots is I think that's going to be a spot we watch all year. The Barmore replacement, not just from pass rushing, but from run defense. It's too bad a prime Lawrence guy isn't still here. He'd be exactly what they need. He's still a free agent.
Somewhere I could have sworn he at least had interest from somebody. Let me check.
Because I thought but maybe I don't know. Let me see, Lawrence guy. I think it's a free agent. Yeah,
Giants implored to sign Lawrence Guy. I guess that was just a reporter. Yeah, the Ravens hosted him. That was it. The Ravens hosted him last week.
Yeah, but obviously there was the whole situation last summer where he didn't get the contract extension that he wanted. He's played a lot of snaps, so I'm sure there's a reason why they haven't kicked the tires on that, because that did seem like a good fit, right? But the good news for the Patriots is that they have so many other good run defenders that can come up and help. Obviously, Juwan Bentley. Anthony Jennings, guys like Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar that come up when they need to. So I think they can get by. It's just, I do wonder if that's a weakness that gets exploited at different times throughout the season.
We shall see. Hopefully not this week, because the Seahawks were opening some massive holes against the Broncos. Broncos run defense was not good. You should never. There was one where it looked like it was 5 yards that Walker had to run through. So hopefully the Patriots can keep it tight like they did for last season and obviously in week 1. All right, some quick hitters. I don't think we have a lot. This might be the only one. If you got any more, make sure to throw them in the chat. What's your opinion on Patriots players having shows and podcasts during the season and seeming more open with stuff?
I think it's a good thing, right? I don't know how I feel about Gerard Mayo going on them. Again, I have to always recalibrate myself just because I think a lot of this is, wow, this is so different from Bill, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So I guess I just have to get used to it. I do love it. The one that I hope ends up happening somewhere down the line is, and I talked to, not last summer, before last season training camp, I did an interview with Jonathan Jones when he was going to get his pilot's license. And we talked about a bunch of stuff. And one of the ones we were talking about is, he'd love to do a podcast, right, where he goes up there and one of the teammates is in the seat next to him and they're flying and they're having just a conversation about whatever. That's the one I want to see. I want to see Jonathan Jones take whoever up, David Andrews up in the plane, and somehow they film it, and that's what the podcast is. I think that would be a good one. And he said he wants to do it. That's his goal, is to do something like that.
Is that the Jerry Seinfeld thing where he just interviews people in cars or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
I think it's called Comedians in Cars.
Comedians in Cars, yeah.
Yeah.
Playing is way more badass. That'd be very cool. I'm pretty much the same way. I don't really mind, especially because it's the veterans. Like, it's David Andrews and Brian Hoyer. That Quick Snap podcast, by the way, incredible access. Like, these are two guys who understand what they can and can't say. But Andrews does a great job of kind of, talking about the time that he was with Brady and the different eras of Patriots football and relating them back to what's going on now. And also, I think it gives you as a fan a little bit more excitement to hear that David, who has been through so many tough seasons and has every reason to kind of be negative this season, being positive and actually being excited about what's going on behind the scenes, like saying they already feel like they have an identity, which I don't know that a Patriots team has felt like it's had an identity since Cam Newton. But that was a lot of that was because he physically couldn't throw very much. And it was like, all right, we're a grounded pound team because we have a 240-pound, 6'3" or 6'5" quarterback and a massive offensive line and good running backs. So, but yeah, I like what Devon Godchaux is doing. Like, the Gerard Mayo appearance, I thought was actually great because he was talking about financial responsibility and, a lot of perspective on the way he goes about things, like the cold shower thing. I got to try that. Every morning I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the cold shower. And I have yet to do it.
I don't know. I didn't hear that part. So I'm curious, like, what their definition of cold shower is. But my wife always makes fun of me because I'm a cold shower guy. Like, especially in the summer, I'm cold. And even right now, like, I'm not doing a hot shower right now. I don't know. I like cold showers.
Is it cold or is it not warm?
Cold.
Cold. Okay.
Not freezing. Like, I'm not like I just barely turn it on and it's ice cold. It's like,
okay,
up to the middle where it's a little bit of both, but then lean back towards cold. That's
all right. That's fair.
Other podcast thing real quick. I'll just say I think the best Patriots podcast thing going right now is Edelman's. I think that one, that the Josh McDaniels episode was great. There was a lot of funny stuff in there. The Matthew Slater one that he had early in the offseason was hysterical. I think that stuff is, if you're a Patriots fan, like that, you got to be eating that one up. There's a lot of good stuff on that. Hopefully he can get Bill or Brady on there at some point. I know he's been clamoring for it. That would be good stuff.
I think New Heights is obviously the best player podcast, and that's just because you have two brothers who happen to be on like perennial playoff teams and have just incredible, wild stories. But Edelman, I mean, he was part of a dynasty. Like, the amount of access he has. Like, we had Ernie Adams, we had Matt Light talking about all the pranks and shit he used to do, and like, hunting in the back of Gillette, and Bill being like, dude, you can't have a weapon on property. Like, those are just the kind of stories that are obviously great content because you're talking about winning cultures and everybody wants to get to know like what's going on in these guys' heads. So I'm with you. Games with Names, I think, is the second best athlete podcast out there. But I'm talking
about just Patriots specific. I think it's the best
Patriots. Yeah, of course. I think Games with Names easily reigns supreme.
Yeah.
All right, Jack. This was a blast, buddy. Before I let you go, please remind the people where they can find you. What great stuff you got coming down the pipeline that we should be looking out for.
At Dak Randall on X. And then, just, heading over to Pro Football Network, covering just about everything that I can over there. I am going to try and flesh out the thing we talked about with how Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson are the keys to the Patriots' path to a number one receiver. Just got to try and flesh that out, maybe talk to people this week. I don't know. So maybe look for that. But I haven't fully fleshed it out yet.
It's going to be awesome. All right. Once again, appreciate you, buddy. And as always, appreciate you all for watching. Now, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you next time. Peace, y'all.